A very good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Toffee Blues YouTube channel. My name is Cal. I'm joined by Callum Brannan and Paul McAllister, and we are back with another stream. We haven't done one for a while, but it's good to be back on with the boys. How are we, fellas? We all good?
Yeah, am I going first? Right, yeah, I'll go first. Yeah, I'm all right, mate. How are you?
Yeah, all good. Ready to delve into all the latest developments. How you doing, Paul?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Nearly with the weekend now, isn't it? I'm looking off to it Monday to Friday, so it feels like most of the week's in the bank for me now. So just one more day, then have a nice chill at the weekend. The weather's going to be nice.
Happy days. Of course, we are live on YouTube, so be sure to drop us a like if you can and subscribe if you haven't done already. Today we're going to be just assessing everything that's been going on at Everton at the minute, because we haven't done one for a while. The last time we spoke, it was very much Rafa Benitez and the whole managerial thing, and that's sort of died down a bit now. And I just want to start off by asking you both, how have we processed the Rafa news? Are we used to it now? Are we just ready to crack on now, or are we going to or do you think some people still got a bit of a sour taste in their mouth? What are we thinking? Go on, Callum, take it away.
I don't think we should have a sour taste in our mouth anymore, because let's face it, he's done everything right so far, hasn't he? Really, I understand Ancelotti did the same thing, but in the end, he's coming to the club. I think he said everything he has to say. He's done the little nice touch on Twitter to Mike and stuff like that. He's getting behind the fans. He's well known to the city. In the end, I think if Everton fans are still complaining now, what's the point? Because it's not going to change anything now, is it? Just get behind him. And then if he does not perform well, then we can start complaining. But now it's time. Just get behind Rafa and let's hope we can win some games, finish decent in the table. That's it, really. It's just simple as that.
Yep. Do you agree, Paul?
Yeah, exactly. You touched on it a minute ago, where I think everyone's just past the point of being angry about it now. Everyone just wants to crack on. I mean, you're always going to get a small minority of people who are going to maybe mouth off about it, but they're the type of supporters who, and every group of supporters, every fan base for every club's got this section of their support who just like complaining. As far as I'm concerned, they're never ever happy. Some clubs have got bigger sections in their fan base than others, but Everton's got quite a vocal one where there's always something to complain about. But vast majority of supporters, I think, have just let the Benitez Liverpool connections go now. If he hadn't before yesterday, then he will have now, considering he said all the right stuff in his press conference about he just wants to come here and crack on and win. And he knows that the best way to win supporters round is just by winning games. It's that simple. So yeah, I think everyone just wants to get pre-season up and running now. Get off to America, get the games going, get some new players in, hopefully a few new players out, and just with the Euros over, just get to the start of the season properly as quick as we can.
Yeah, absolutely, Paul. You mentioned it there. Rafa's the manager. Everyone's got used to it now. I certainly have got used to it, and I think we just want to crack on now and get a good pre-season under our belts, because, like Callum just said, Rafa's the manager. There's nothing we can do about it now, and I think quite a lot of fans have sort of used to that idea. And I think, by the way, the club have handled it quite well with the whole PR side of things. I feel like it's been quite a quiet manager reveal, in all honesty, compared to manager reveals in the past. It's just sort of simmered, and it's not really been a big whistles and bells hanging off the kind of announcement. They've just sort of got on with it, and I think that's probably the best course of action they could have done. So of course the squad are back for pre-season. Not all of them. We've got quite a few players still absent for notable reasons, albeit the Euros or Copa America or whatever we want. But yeah, one thing I want to start on, obviously pre-season's back, and we've seen the presence of a couple of players who maybe would raise a few eyebrows in James Rodriguez and Kean being fit and ready from quite the off, really. So what are we thinking about
that? I said it to you. I don't think James is going to leave, personally. I think it's this idea of it's his agent trying to drum up interest, trying to say, oh, look, AC Milan, Napoli, Atletico Madrid. In reality, none of them have probably offered for him. Like, AC Milan want to build a young culture. Why are they going to sign a 30-year-old with really bad calves? You know what I mean? It's like Kean, I can see leaving, but at the same time, if Rafa's, in his foot down saying, no, you pay us the money or you deal with it, it could be a situation where Kean has a season at Everton again with kind of this verbal agreement that you can leave next season, because PSG are going to get rid of Mbappe. And if they rate Kean as highly as they seem to do, it looks like they might be using Kean as the Mbappe replacement.
Yeah, Paul, do you agree? What do you think the score is with James and Kean at the minute, given that they've been quite prominent in Everton's social media pictures of the pre-season? Do you think that's maybe alluding to they could be staying, or do you think it's pretty much still quite of the opinion that they will be departing?
It's hard to know, isn't it? you are right when you say it's raised eyebrows, because I think everyone had just kind of come to terms with the fact that one of them, if not both, was going to go. But the fact of the matter is, two men turn up for work after the summer off. It shouldn't be that surprise yet. Neither one of them played in the national tournament. Neither one of them's had an official bid made for them, as far as we know. So them going back to pre-season, there's no good reason why they shouldn't be there with everyone else who's been called back. So I agree with Callum. I think James Rodriguez, I think it's looking more likely he's going to stay every day that passes, because as much as the stories appear in the papers and other media outlets, they get linked with this club, that club, everywhere. He's a 30-year-old bad calf. Callum is nail on the head. There's not many clubs that are willing to come in and take players like that. So I'm happy if he stays. Moise Kean, I think, might drag on a little bit. I'd be up for giving Moise Kean another season back at Everton and getting fully behind the lad, and hopefully it will bear fruit. And that year away from PSG will have done the world of good in terms of coming back and making an impact in the Premier League. But I can see that kind of dragging on over the next few weeks and months. Go as we count down to the start of the season. I really hope it's not going to turn into another Lookman type situation where the club are adamant that he's staying, but no one really believes them, and the club and who are trying to buy him, in this case PSG, in Lookman's case it was Leipzig. That club just won't take no for an answer. They'll keep coming back with these offers that we know Everton are going to turn down, whether it's a loan or whether it's a loan with an option to buy, or it's an official bid that doesn't meet our asking price that we want. I think with Rodriguez, unless something happens in the next week or two, I think he's definitely staying. With Moise Kean, I wouldn't surprise me if he's here for the first. When does the transfer window shut?
Is it end of August, like first week of September or something like that?
31st of August.
Yeah. Have they changed it back to you play the first, 2-3 games and then the transfer window shuts?
I think they have, haven't they? Yeah.
I can see that happening where Moise Kean maybe features in the first few matchday squads, and then maybe on deadline day or something he goes back to PSG at the last minute, and it's just a game of chess between us and them for the next few weeks. But with James Rodriguez, I think unless something happens in the next week and a half, then I think he's going to be here next season, and we'll hopefully crack on with Rafa Benitez, because apparently they haven't got the best relationships, have they? But no one comes in and bids for him, then he can't move, can he?
Yeah, just to pick up on a point you just made there, Paul, about the Rafa and James potentially don't have the best of relationships. How much do you think Rafa's going to be wanting to have a look at Moise Kean? Do you think he's looking at him thinking that he is a player that he can use in his squad? Because we've seen in the last couple of days stories have been coming out that Rafa Benitez certainly doesn't want to loan Moise Kean out to PSG, and of course, if he is going to be leaving the club, it will be permanently. And it doesn't really look like from at the minute that PSG prefer to just throw that kind of money at the club. So do you think Rafa's maybe he's given them an ultimatum, really, hasn't he? And he said either you pay the money or he's well and truly in our plans for the season. So you think Rafa maybe rates him?
Well, he should be giving them a look, because Everton are not in the position to just be casting aside. How old is he now? 20, 21?
Mm-hmm.
We're not in a position to be casting aside strikers who are scoring 15, 16, 17 goals for PSG. When we come back here on loan, we need all the goals we can get in our squad. So unless big comes, then we should be looking to keep goals him, even if he's kicking and screaming about it. So Rafa Benitez, he's been around the block a long time. He doesn't strike me as the type of manager who would just refuse to use a player out of like a petty, like an ego type of thing. I mean, we've seen players in the past who've fallen out with managers at Everton, and that's ended their Everton career maybe a little bit sooner than it should have. But I don't think Benitez is that type of manager. He's been around a long time. He knows coming into this Everton job that he needs all the good players he can possibly get to get Everton a good start. Because if Everton don't get off to a good start, it puts his own situation in peril, doesn't it? So with Moise Kean, I think Benitez will be looking at him and thinking, you are definitely going to play under me, and unless something very, very dramatic happens, then that's not changing. I don't think we'll put Moise Kean in the shop window saying, look, everybody come and take this player off us. We're happy to part ways with him. I think if we are doing that, then that would be really, really stupid.
Yeah, me and Callum were just speaking off air before, weren't we, Callum, about, this is quite, I think it's quite good in a way how Rafa's come in, and he's basically, there's been no messing about, and he said, listen, before Rafa came in, there was a lot of talk that Everton were willing to let Kean go out on loan again, much to the dismay of a lot of fans. And it's quite encouraging actually to see Rafa put his foot down and say, either you're paying the money that we want or he's our player. So does that put Rafa up in your estimation a bit, Callum? Because we spoke about this briefly off camera before.
Yeah, it does massively, because let's put it as simple as possible. Rafa's got the stones to tell arguably the richest club on the planet, no. You know what I mean? It's this idea of, you might have more money than us, you might be the bigger club, but in the end, he's our player. He's contracted to Everton. There's nothing you can do about it unless you pay the money. And in the end, it's like Rafa said, even talking about James, he said it over and over again in terms of the Liverpool connections, but it works in this sense. The guy's a professional. He's not going to look at past relationships or anything like that, or Moise Kean's history with the club that he wants to leave. He doesn't care about history. He wants to go forward and win. He doesn't want to look back. That's the idea of what I get from Rafa, really.
Yeah, I like to say he's saying all the right things, and he's not really done anything, that's going to really irk a lot of people so far. So in his first couple of weeks at manager, there's quite little to complain about. So just on Rafa still, just before we delve into some of the transfers, and of course we are live on YouTube, so be sure to drop us a like and comments, because we will be reading some of your comments out shortly. We're going to be touching, because obviously Rafa Benitez did his first press conference yesterday, and there wasn't any massive line coming out of it really, I didn't think. But the thing, and this is still on James Rodriguez, I think he was asked about James, and he did say that he was quite quick to dismiss the comments a little bit. He wasn't prepared to talk about James as an individual, and he was very much adamant that it was a team game, and he wasn't going to praise individuals because it's not fair on others. Do you think Paul that alludes to this relationship, that they don't have the best one, as you mentioned before? Do you think he's sort of setting his stall up early, letting people know that no one's going to be getting any special treatment at Everton, or Rafa's Everton at least?
Yeah, there's probably an aspect of that in letting the players know that it doesn't matter what's come beforehand. He's the new manager, everyone's starting fresh with him. And there's also, you've got to remember, if he comes out and he's basically praising James Rodriguez to high heaven in a press conference saying, oh yeah, we understand how crucial he is, we're desperate to keep him, he's putting all the power in the player and the agent's hands then. And that just encourages them to act up and cause mischief if they are angling for the move, isn't it? So he's basically just snuffing it out, killing it dead, saying all the players, I'm working with all of them. They're all going to get the same treatment. They're all going to be assessed in the same way. And frankly, he's not doing the job long enough. How many days will he have had on the training ground with James? How many days have he been back in pre-season?
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, 3 or 4 days. He probably hasn't had enough time yet to make a solid... I have enough time to run his eye over everyone yet and just work out exactly where he sees everyone fitting in over the next few months. So I don't think there's anyone at the club who he's looked at yet and he's thought, yeah, you are definitely going to leave. I don't want you. I've got no use for you yet. You don't have had time to work with him enough yet, unless there's a player who is already on the outs and he's been told as part of his negotiation when he's taking the job, right, by Marcel Brands or Machiri or whoever it was, unless they've said to him in the negotiation, like, don't expect to have this player this summer because we're working on deals for him right now, looking to get him out the door ASAP. But I don't think Rodriguez or Moise Kean could be falling into that category. If what that has happened, then I imagine it's probably a player like a Delph or a Bernard who that applies to.
Yeah, spot on, mate. Yeah, and just on the press conference again, Callum, obviously we saw that, it was inevitable. Rafa was facing the media and he was always going to get a question about, his small club comments, which, I think, through the club officially, they were quick to maybe put this one to bed a little bit. And I think, Rafa, he just reiterated the same. He says that, he says what he needs to say to fight for his club, and Everton is his club, and he's going to fight for Everton. So I think, I don't know about you, Callum, but I'm a bit bored, personally, of all this small club thing now. It really doesn't bother me. It's water off a duck's back. And, we just really want to, get started with pre-season and winning football matches. Do you agree?
Yeah, this might bury future connections for me, but it's just crap journalists doing crap journalism, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just the idea of, there's one name that I want to mention, but I'm not going to do that. But it's just this idea of every time this guy gets the chance, it's Rafa called you a small club, Rafa called you a small club. He's the Liverpool manager. Yeah. The Liverpool manager wants to get an easy reaction out of Liverpool fans. Hey, Everton a shite. Hey, everyone clap. You know what I mean? Yeah. If I was the Real Madrid manager and I could do it, I'd go, yeah, Barcelona shite, way, everyone cheer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I think as well, what he said back in 2019 when he meant we were a small team as in the way we played, he was right. I mean, let's look at it in the end. We went to Liverpool, we went, no, not today. sat back, defended. I don't think, because it's Rafa, Rafa's not, he's not the best with the trash talk. So I honestly think he's the sort of geezer that would just say something stupid, look back at it and go, oh, I regret saying that. But in the end, what was it? 12 years ago now? 11 years ago?
Something daft like that.
I don't care. Like 11 years ago, we probably all thought stupid things. Just move on from it. You know what I mean? It's just, like I said, it's just crap journalism by crap journalists.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, Sky Sports and whoever it may be, TalkSport, they're always, it was inevitable. They always want to get a line out of him regarding that. But, I'd like to think that's all put to bed now. We've heard the last of all this Liverpool connection smoke up. That's all we've heard over the last month, really, isn't it? So anyway, we're going to jump into transfer talk now. We just touched on all the pre-season stuff and Rafa. But yeah, we're going to go into transfers and we'll start off with the two big names. And of course, put your comments in about what your thoughts are on these links. But the two big ones really that are coming out in the last couple of days, and the two names which haven't really gone away. And Paul, we'll start with you. We're just going to ask your thoughts on Denzel Dumfries. Now, this is a name that hasn't really gone away. Before the Euros, during the Euros, and now after the Euros, it seems that we're still being linked to them. So Denzel Dumfries, the right back for the Netherlands, currently at PSV. Do you feel like he is a man who could be very, very useful for our squad?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, I didn't know much about him before the World Cup, and they always say you should judge a player off an international tournament, but I'm not going to go and look back at loads of PSV games, so just not that. I'm not that much of an geek. Yeah, looks like he's got pace, doesn't he? He looks like he's got a good personality, like he'd be another leader for the dressing room. He's got a goal in him, we've seen that. He likes to get involved in attacks, and that's been one of our big weaknesses in our squad the last few years. We haven't had a full-back. We've had Dean on the left, but we haven't had a right full-back who can bomb up the pitch and support the man in front of him, whether it's Rodriguez, whether it was Iwobi, whether it was someone else. So I really like the look of Dumfries. He looks like he's going to be this summer's Thierry Mina, wasn't it? Where that player who just linked with all summer and everyone's thinking, oh, look at him, he's done something great in the World Cup. That's the end of that transfer links. Another Champions League club's going to come in and take him away from us now. But as you said, it won't go away. And there was rumours that Marcel Brands was in Holland the day that Benitez was announced. That was the reason Marcel Brands wasn't at Finch Farms, because he was isolating, because he'd been in Holland negotiating a transfer. And I haven't heard of us being linked with any other Holland-based players, whether they're Dutch or whether they just play in the Dutch league. It's very easy to just assume that player was Dumfries, wasn't it? Might not have been, but if it wasn't him, then it's a player we haven't heard of, that they've kept quiet. So I really like the look of Dumfries. I mean, I'm a Max Aarons fan personally, but that seems to have just completely gone quiet that now, hasn't it? And a couple of months ago, the BCO Romano, who's pretty spot on, at least when it comes to Everton transfers, when Premier League transfers in general, he said that the clubs, Everton and Norwich, were miles apart in terms of valuation and doing a deal. So maybe that deal's just completely fell by the wayside now, and we have just moved on to the targets. But I really like Dumfries, but hopefully, unlike the Mina situation, it doesn't drag on and on and on, because did we announce Mina and Gomez on deadline day? And we had
Dino as well, I think.
Dino was announced the last week, I think a couple of days before, and that dragged on as well. But that week, back in 2018, whenever it was, we had club officials out in Barcelona negotiating these deals. So I'm hoping that's not the case this time, where we just get the deal all done and dusted in the middle of pre-season, and we've got time to bring the lad in and get him involved in a pre-season game or two. I know he's going to have an extended holiday because of the World Cup, but hopefully by the time all of our transfer business is done, it'll be done with enough time to get these players fully integrated, and we won't have to play the first few games of the season without them. Or at the very least, maybe if they're coming back from a tournament, then we'll at least have a couple in the door, in the sense that we know there are players. We don't have to worry about whether we're going to lose, not going to get the deal over the line at the last minute. I'd really not like the situation where we're chasing certain players and we're maybe in a bidding war, or the selling club are just trying to drag it out a little bit to get an extra couple of quid off us. I don't want to go into those first few games of the season not knowing what our squad's going to look like for the season ahead. If you haven't got any players who are at least in the match day squad, then hopefully we've at least signed them. And we know, okay, we haven't got this player right now, but it's only because he's on holiday and he's coming back in the next few days. We'll have him for the rest of this season.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I agree with everything you've just said there, really. I think Dumfries can add a lot to our squad. I think he was very impressive in the Netherlands. I think it was their opening game against Ukraine. I thought he was man of the match, the way he was getting up the right wing. You know, he was overlapping. I think he's even scored in that game, a header at the far post or the near post. So, yeah, Callum, do you agree? Do you feel like he can add that flair that was sort of missing on the right-hand side? You know, he seems to fit the bill, doesn't he? You know, PSV, Marcel Brands, that connection there. It's one that I can, out of all the names so far that have been linked with, I feel like this is the one that I can really see happening. Do you?
Yeah, I can really see it happening, especially now that Inter Milan, you know, I never thought I'd be in a situation where we'd be saying Everton have more money than Inter Milan, but you know, it looks like they're going to go sign Bellerin, and we've just been given an open hand to just like, here you go, take arguably, you know, one of the best right backs of the Euros. But yeah, I think it's good, especially the price tag as well. I thought his price tag would be ridiculously inflated by the tournament, but it's not. It's barely gone up. It's gone up a tiny bit. But in the end, I think it's a great signing. I think it adds that explosiveness we need, that power and pace of someone who can just go from 0 to 100 like a Ferrari, you know, 0 to 60, bang, and he's just full speed down the... Because it will struggle. A lot of players will struggle to deal with that, even, you know, some of the better left-backs defensively, you know. So I think it's something that we really need. I think I would prefer if we got two pacey players on that right-hand side, but I don't know about that. I do know that he's in Holland for a few players that we're looking at, but it's Dumfries is the one we're most confident at. And then we're looking at a few other players who might join and might not. I think it all probably depends on the Kean situation, to be honest with you. But yeah, I think Dumfries would be fantastic. His ability to get forward and his pace to track back as well, you know. If we sign Dumfries, I could really see us going to a free at the back, though, and playing Digne and Dumfries as wing-backs or midfielders. But I do think it's an exciting move, and I think it's what we need in the squad, really.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm seeing in the comments there's a lot of shouts for Dumfries as well. Koeman, he wants Dumfries. You know, I've got for Vitality, I know that he's on the Dumfries train as well. You know, it's a name that seems to be very popular with fans at the minute. I think it's one that a lot of supporters want to see. You know, Paul mentioned before there about Max Adams as well, which is a name we'd be willing to, but that seems to have cooled amid the Dumfries interest. So yeah, hopefully that deal gets over the line, because I think that would be a great signing for us. Moving on to the other sort of big...
Just, I don't know if you boys have seen it. I mean, everyone will know who's seen it. Has everyone seen that Photoshop picture of him in the airport with the Everton badge?
Oh, yeah, I think I saw that. Yeah.
I saw it this morning on the bus on the way to work, and I saw some people genuinely... They said they were believing it. I don't know if they were being sarcastic, but anyone who's seen that photo of him in the airport, I don't even think it's a recent photo. I think it was taken weeks ago when he was travelling out to the Euros. So, no, if he's not like literally on his way to Liverpool to sign a contract.
Yeah, Paul, there'll be it wouldn't surprise me how many people would believe that as well, which is the mad thing. Interesting comments just coming now from Jonathan. He says Dumfries and Bailey on the right wing. I imagine he's talking about Leon Bailey from Bayer Leverkusen. That would be something I could get on board with. I think that would be great if we could get them on our right hand side. Just really quickly, watch Leon Bailey was. I know we have been mentioned in the past, but it doesn't seem to have much legs at the minute. But is that a name you're minding? That sort of player?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's one of those players where if we got Dumfries, Bailey's not like the most powerful, but in the end, he's quick. He's got a lot of technical ability, and you know, I think he got 9 goals, 8 assists last season in the Bundesliga. His best season for Bayer Leverkusen. You know, that's 9 goals and 8 assists on the wing. I think in less games as well. Bundesliga is only 34 games. You know, I'd take that, and especially with that idea of if he wants to be the technical dribbler who might be able to cut inside and play a ball, which allows Dumfries to overlap. I think it's a fantastic move, but honestly, I don't think Bailey's a top priority for the club.
It's sort of cooled down, that sort of rumour at the minute. I can't see that happening really. You know, Peter Collins has just put an interesting comment. We can't really spend any incoming cash from Usmanov due to FFP, which, you know, he has a point, but hopefully, fingers crossed, there are going to be a number of players that will be leaving the club, specifically the ones on high wages, which will give us a bit more flexibility in that area. So just moving on to the other big name that's sort of been mentioned, there's been mumbles of it in the last few days, but today there's certainly been, you know, there was a story that Everton, in fact, made a bid. How true this is, we don't know. But this is Koulibaly, of course, a 30-year-old centre-half from Napoli. Apparently, Everton have made a £30 million bid, you know, shy of his 51.4 million asking price. You know, Paul, we'll start with you. Kalidou Koulibaly, is he someone that you'd like to see at the club?
Yeah, I'd like to see Koulibaly at the club, but I don't for 1 minute think we're going to. You say there's been mumblings about this for the last few days. There's been mumblings about Koulibaly for years. I remember him getting linked with us. He got linked with us when Koeman was the manager, and Moshiri. And he's been linked with. It feels like he gets linked to a move to the Premier League every single transfer window, whether it's us, whether it's City, whether it's Chelsea, whether it's Man United. I think his agents just loves putting his name in.
He's like the centre-back version of Wilfried Zaha, isn't he? He just never happens.
Yeah, exactly. That just whenever his agent basically is either bored or wants a new deal at Napoli, or there's something that they want Napoli to agree to, he just puts his name out in the media and links him to a Premier League club. And I'm surprised that Everton are one of the clubs he links us to. I mean, it's easy now considering that Benitez is here and it's well known he's got a good relationship with Benitez, but he was getting linked with us when Ancelotti was here. He was getting linked with us when Koeman was here. It just feels like one of those like urban myths. Do you know what I mean? Where it just never ever goes away. He's 30 years old. I mean, I would love to get him because I think he's a quality player. But we're not spending big money on any 30-year-old player. We're not. Even if FFP wasn't as bad as it was, it doesn't follow Marcel Brands' MO. Doesn't he signed?
So can you not see this happening? Is this a deal that you can't really see happening in reality? No. What do you think, Callum? Do you agree?
No chance. Absolutely zero chance. I think what we've got to look at as well is I think the Everton thing comes from the fact that we nabbed Alan and Ancelotti from him. So I don't know if now Napoli look at Everton and they're like, oh, don't do it again, lads. Come on. And so it's just like, so his agent's like, oh, look, all those Napoli players left for Everton. We were linked with is it Zielinski, the Polish midfielder as well from Napoli? It seems like every transfer window, they've just got to sprinkle now 1 or 2 Napoli players in. Because, I mean, look at it. Our past 2 managers have been Napoli managers as well. So it's just this idea of now, we want them all. But I think the other one we're centre-back we're linked with is the one I think we'll sign, Langley from Barca. Because they are stuck in the mud. We could probably offer them 10, 15 million and they'll give him because they're just like, please get his wages off from us. That's what I say.
They have literally haven't said to Griezmann that basically just want to rip his contract up and let him go for nothing.
I mean, I'll take Griezmann if they want to rip his contract up.
They're going to bring the wage bill down, I think, at least a few million a week just to even register the new players they've got. I was reading it in the Athletic before. They've got Sergio Aguero, they've got Depay, they've got
Eric Garcia from
Garcia. Messi apparently taking this massive wage cut isn't even a drop in the ocean in terms of them getting their finances in order. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do maybe nick the odd loan from Barcelona because they've got a lot of players, good players, who we can't afford to pay anymore. So
just on Langley and Koulibaly, obviously they're 2 centre halves there that we've been linked with, and there has been a lot of links in the last couple of days now. Let's not forget already at the club we have Thierry Mina, we have Michael Kean, we have Mason Holgate. It's not somewhere where we have a lot of depth issues, if you like. It's not somewhere where we're really stuck. And of course, Ben Godfrey, who's the main man in defence at the minute. So, they're sort of our 4 primary centre-backs, if you like. If we add another, will this sort of mean that someone has to go out for one to come in? Because I find it very hard to believe that we would keep all 4 or 5 of our centre-backs already at the club on top of more big money signing. So who do you think's closest to the drop zone in terms of the defence? Who would have to leave in place for the centre half to come in?
Is this my opinion or who I think the club are going to get rid of? Because they have different answers.
Both, yeah. Go on, both.
I think the club's going to get rid of Mina because he's got 2 years left in the deal, and maybe some bigger clubs are sniffing around him now after his performances at the Copa America. And I agree with Michael Kean. He's the one I'd get rid of. I love Kean, but let's face it, he's not a proper centre-back, is he?
He's not consistent enough for me, Callum. I don't think he's consistent enough.
He's a stopper. He'll pick up the ball. He can play a decent pass. He can hoof it out. But I just don't think he has that game intelligence to be a really good leading centre-back. I think he has to be next to someone who can read the game a little bit better. If I had a choice, I'd want to keep Mina, sign him to a new deal because he's still young. He's not that old, is he? He's 24, 25, 20...
25,
yeah.
25,
like
26.
25, 26. If we're going off centre-backs, he's not even supposed to be hitting his prime yet for a centre-back. And if we do play a back 3, which is linked, the rumour, having Langley and Godfrey as the 2 outside ones, and then Mina in the middle is the one who just sort of like sweeps up, gets rid of the ball and stuff. I think that works pretty well because, people are a big fan of Langley on Everton Twitter, which is weird. I look at it and think, because he's had one clanger season for Barcelona, it means he's awful. He was good for Sevilla, he's good with his feet, and I think it will work for the system that I think Rafa's going to play.
Yeah, For me, you probably have to ask questions of Michael Kean and Mason Holgate. Paul, who do you think maybe should be shown the exit door should another centre half come in?
The only centre half we've got who's nailed on to have a future here long term is Godfrey, isn't it? Yeah. Michael Kean and Mina have both got pluses and negatives, haven't they?
So there's question marks for a few of them for you. The jury's still out on a few of our defenders for you, then, yeah.
Well, yeah, essentially. If we're going to be a club that's getting into Europe and competing at the top end, would you say Michael Kean is a player who belongs in a trophy-winning team? I wouldn't, at least not as a starter. Mina, I like Mina as well, but he is injury-prone. He just misses too many games in the season, and how long? Even though you like them, how much patience can you show? It would be a lot of. I think there's a very good case for. You could make a very good case for not giving him a new deal because his injuries just mount up too much and the money he's on. I think if we were going to offer him a new deal, then I said we wouldn't be giving him a wage increase because he's already one of our highest earners. And you can't have one of your highest earners being missing 15, 20 games a season like he always seems to. Holgate's career's gone down the drain for teams. I mean, he's still young. Maybe there's time for him, whether it's here or somewhere else. Maybe Holgate just needs a fresh start. He has been at the club a while, hasn't he? And he's never fully broke through. He's become a starter. He's had spells in the team where he's been good, spells in the team where he's been awful, but maybe it's just at the point now where he just agrees that it's not going to happen for him at Everton and all parties shake hands and move on. I think if that happens, there's not many Everton fans who would be sad about it because last season was just a complete disaster for him, wasn't it? So I think Holgate will probably go, or we'll look to get rid of him if we can get a good bid. And with Kean and Mina, I think it will come down to who Rafa prefers, and you've got to weigh everything up. You've got to weigh up injuries, you've got to weigh up wages, you've got to weigh up age, you've got to weigh up who Rafa might think fits better in a free, if he is going to play a free. There's a bunch of things. I personally prefer Mina to Kean, but I know a lot of people prefer Kean to Mina, so that's going to be a decision for Rafa, isn't it? And maybe Marcel Brands. But touching back on Barca, one of the players who apparently Barca are just desperate to flog. John Claire Tobido, is that how you say it?
Oh yeah, we were linked with him. I think we were linked to him at some point last season or the season before. I think because wasn't he on loan at Schalke?
Yeah, we've been linked with him before. Apparently, Marcel Brands is a big fan, and he was one of those players we were looking at when we couldn't get Zuma back from Chelsea, and then I think in the end we ended up getting Godfrey. When we were looking at Gabriel, we were looking at Tobido, and then ultimately Godfrey was the player who we ended up taking the punt on, and that's worked out brilliant. It's a great investment, but it wouldn't shock me if the club maybe a sniff round there again and go to Barcelona and put an offer on the table because we've been interested before. Apparently, he's more easy to get now than he's ever been. He had an okay season at Schalke. I know Schalke have been an absolute mess, but I don't think a lot of it was down to the Vigo. He's still young, isn't he? Maybe they'll look at him and think, like, that's another Ben Godfrey type player who, okay, he got relegated in the team. He was one of the very few players who seemed to hold his own and not disgrace himself. Let's get him in here working under a better manager with better facilities, with better players around him, and hopefully he can grow into something. So I wouldn't be shocked if maybe we're looking at him again, because I think there is a chance we will sign another centre-back, especially if we sell one of them in Holgate or sell two of them. But it won't be Koulibaly. He's too old. We want too much money.
I don't think it'll sit very well with the fans if we end up paying upwards of 40 million or something for the 30-year-old player. That won't sit well with the fans at all. Just going into the comments now for a little bit. And of course, if you are watching on YouTube, be sure to drop us a like if you can. It'd be much appreciated. Harold Dotton says the Twin Towers, Mina and Koulibaly, sell Michael Kean. Yeah, potentially. I mean, Michael Kean, he's definitely, the question marks are out on him. Jonathan again says Todibo has gone to Nice, I think. Is that correct? Has he gone there? Has he? Yeah.
There is another centre back at Barca though. I think he broke in when someone got injured. It's Ronald, the Uruguayan lad. I don't know if Barca want to keep him because he's cheap, but in the end, if they've got no money and we come in and say we'll take that young Uruguayan lad off you, I think if I do a quick Google now, because I think I was looking at him earlier, so he should pop up straight away. Yeah, 22.
Yeah,
We've got him.
There's only 4 or 5 players at Barcelona who they won't take money for at this point.
Yeah,
absolute no-go list, isn't there? And this young lad won't be one of them.
I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to do another 2018 and just look at Barcelona. And because let's be honest, we can have Barcelona's pants down because if we offer money, they have to take it. That's the thing. So it's Jonathan's just put Fabrizio said Everton looked at. That's why his name popped up in my head. But there's a few players that we could take from Barcelona and maybe even on just loans where we say we'll pay. I don't want Coutinho, but he's the first player who popped into my head. So before everyone gets angry in the comments, I don't want Coutinho. Yeah. But we'll play half Coutinho's wages for you. We'll take him on loan because I think it is now Barcelona are a prime candidate to just clubs like us, mid-table to higher mid-table clubs. Need to look at a team like Barcelona who've got players that easily start for us on their bench that they'd happily get rid of and go, we'll take him. Just like we did with Mina, Digne and Gomez. And I mean, Gomez didn't work out the best, but 2 of those 3 have been fantastic. And Digne's been one of our better signings in the past 10, 15 years, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. You're spot on. Jonathan says, again, I'll sell Kean, not good enough, and at 29 years of age. Yannick Melendez says, do you guys prefer Nkounkou as second left back or to go on loan or for him to go on loan and have others like Godfrey or Delph, God forbid he plays for us again? You know, this is an interesting one. Me and Callum were talking about Nkounkou off air before. And, you know, he is a player who he made a few appearances at the start of last season. Then he went missing for the whole, 80% of it. And then he came on at the end of the City game. It's looking like he's going to be going to the Olympics with France. There's been talk of him maybe going on a loan. And just to answer Yannick's comment there, what do you guys think? Do you think we'll see more of Nkounkou and him growing into that role a bit more? Or do you think the loan's probably the best for him? We'll start with Paul. Go on.
I would have said it would depend on what he does in pre-season. But if he's going to be going to the Olympics, then he won't be here, will he? So it's an interesting one, that. I mean, he looked really good in those few games he played start of last season in the Cups. And I think he had a bit of an underwhelming game against Newcastle. And it just seemed like Ancelotti would never give him a chance again, which was harsh. I don't know. There's pluses and negatives for both, isn't there? Like, what would be better for his development? I think it depends a lot on the player himself and his mentality. Would it be better if he goes away from his parent club, if he goes down the road to the Championship, or if he goes back to France for a year or Bundesliga for a year and he's put in a situation where he's under pressure and he's got to perform for his playing team every week? Or would it be better to just keep him around and let him learn off the older players and kind of flip in and out of the squad? It all depends on the player, I really think. We've got other players in a similar boat to him, like Anthony Gordon, Jared Branthwaite, haven't they? Branthwaite on loan. But both of them went on loan and had a mixed spell. But Branthwaite at Blackburn, Gordon at Preston. We both played some games, maybe not as much as we hoped we would have when we agreed to send them there. But it's difficult decisions, isn't it? But I liked Nkounkou from what I saw him last season. Personally, I would lean towards keeping him around at least until January, maybe. Because you don't know. Digne got an injury last season, didn't he? He could get one again, and we're going to need someone who can step into the left back position. And I don't want to put Godfrey there if we can out the Godfrey position as a centre back, and that's where he's going to play his best football for us. I don't want to see Fabian Delph and Everton again if we can out it. So I would lean towards keeping Nkounkou around, but it all depends on what's going to happen with that Mr. Thierry Small, isn't it? Because he's a left back as well who is harping up trying to get out. So maybe Stephen Richardson's just put in the comments, talking to left backs on Thierry Small. What are your thoughts on Small going? Well, I know it's something me and Callum spoke about earlier. What is our thoughts on this? And we want to get people's thoughts in the comments, because essentially this is a 16-year-old kid who's made one appearance for the club against. Did he start that game, or did he come on as a sub against Sheffield Wednesday? He came off the bench in the fifth round of the FA Cup. I think it was the fourth round, and albeit he's a youngest player, but it seems to me that this 16-year-old kid seems to be wanting to call the shots for first team football, and now he's holding out for moves allegedly to Arsenal, Man United, Real Madrid, which I can't see for the life of me happening at all, because he's got more chance of getting first team football than he has there. So Callum, what is going on with this Thierry Small at the minute?
It's his agent trying to get more money, man. It's so obvious what it is. His agent will be like his dad or something, and he'll be trying to get himself a bit of cash. That's all it is. Because in the end, if Thierry Small wants a bit of first team football, loan out Nkounkou, let Small play back up, and then when Small gets shredded by a championship player, you don't get me wrong, it'll hurt me a little bit, but then I'll chuckle because you get your cocky little, because you're not as good. He's not as good as you think.
Well, this is he's not turned up for training, has he? That's the thing. He's not allegedly, if reports to be believed, he's not turned up for training, which to me straight away screams that there's issues there. There's a bad apple there. So it's not looking good at all, is it?
Unless you're performing at 16 like Messi, Ronaldo, Mbappe or something, shut your mouth and play your football. You know what I mean? Finish your A-levels before you start thinking you're going to be the next best left back in the world.
So yeah, Paul, do you think he's made his bed with a lot of Evertonians maybe now, Thierry Small? Do you feel like that's not a good start to his career by going down this route?
No, I think not turning up for training, that's an absolute cardinal sin, isn't it? It'd be different if he maybe just said something stupid in an interview, or there was rumours that he'd been sent home from training by the manager. Then I think people would maybe forgive him a bit more than that, say, right, it was just a bad decision that this young kid's made, influenced by his agent, whoever it is, his dad, his brother, his mate. You could maybe forgive him, but if it was something else, but not turning up training, that's just completely reeks of professionalism. And we've got to send a message. We've got to say to every player, whether he's a 16-year-old fair choice right back, or whether it was the main striker at the club, the star, whether it's Richarlison or DCL, you ever not turn up for training, when you're told to turn up for training, there's no way back for you. You're gone. So with this kid, it's a shame it's gone down this route, because a lot of people seem to rate him, don't people?
This is what I mean. It's disappointing because, you know, this is a kid who is the youngest ever player to play for Everton, and when people hear the name Thierry Small now, all they're thinking about is the 16-year-old kid who didn't turn up for training and tried to straggle a move out of the club at the age of 16. And if it's true that the club have arranged this bumper professional deal for him, you know what? I think he's very, very lucky if he's getting that now, because I think that's not the way to go at all. Just moving on to some other rumours after the whole Small situation. All the players that we've been linked with so far have been quite defensive-minded players. You know, we're talking about players like Lenglet, Koulibaly, Dumfries. There's been a few rumblings even about Kurt Zouma potentially making a return. Is this where the priority lies for you? Do you feel that, you know, there should be more players of a different position getting linked? You know, when I say that, I mean more squad depth in midfield, players who have legs. You know, of course, we've got Gbamin coming back. Hopefully, we can keep him fit, which will hopefully be like a new sign if he plays to his peak. You know, fingers crossed, God forbid. And of course, wingers is another one for me. And then, of course, there's the question of who's going to support Calvert-Lewin, and, you know, does Pickford need backup? Because there's talk of Robin Olsen going to Lille. So, Callum, what do you think? Where do you feel like there should be more attention to? Because so far, everything we've spoke about has been very defensive, hasn't it?
Do you know what? I sit and I praise that we are looking at wingers. Yeah, like St. Maximin's linked, but that's only if Richarlison leaves, because please don't pay 50 million for St. Maximin. I love him and he's a class player, but he's barely worth 35, never mind 50. He's worth 35 if he's lucky and we're being nice to him. He plays for Newcastle, you know what I mean? He wasn't even Newcastle's best player for the last half of the season. It was a kid on loan from Arsenal, Joe Willock. You know what I mean? So it's this idea of I think we might be trying to keep quiet with it, because I do know one of the players that he's in Holland looking at is Anthony, a young Brazilian winger from Ajax. I think he might have been looking at Neres as well. But, you know, it's this idea of maybe we're trying to keep it quiet so we don't get linked with someone, or someone doesn't try to steal a transfer away from us or something. I don't know what it is, but I feel like Brands is sorting it out, and maybe he's looking a little more carefully at this. Maybe we've got a big list of centre-backs, because to be honest with you, I do think there's more defenders available that are of quality than wingers that we could get, realistically. Because, I mean, look at it. Zouma, Lenglet, Koulibaly, you know, this players like that. And I just think we're looking at the forwards, but we're trying to make sure we find the right one, if you know what I mean. So he has to be perfect for us. With centre backs, we're going this name, this name, this name, this name, this name, and we've got. But I think there's a lot more scouting going into the forwards than there is at the centre backs. And with goalkeeper, there's a few decent keepers available on a free. There's Romero from United. There's that Gazzaniga from Spurs, who was really good for Southampton. There's a few goalkeepers, because goalkeepers are just naturally cheaper anyway. So I don't think we have to worry, but I do see it being one of the free ones probably. One of the free ones being, Romero, Gazzaniga, or someone on a free or as cheap as we can get. Because in the end, the backup just has to be a good backup is someone who can play 2 or 3 games where the Pickford gets injured and we go, right, it's not the end of the world if he plays that. Kind of like Olsen was.
Yeah, I agree. It's looking like Olsen might not be coming back. Personally, I would have liked to see Olsen come back. I thought he had a great Euros, and I think, he did a job for Everton when he played as well. I thought he was a solid backup keeper. Just before we move on to talking about outgoings, I just want, Paul, I'll come to you now. Are you disappointed that we've not made any signings yet? Are we at squeaky bum time yet, or are you sort of giving it the benefit of the doubt, given what's been happening with the manager, or would you have liked to have seen a couple or at least one in by now?
No, I think you've got to give it the benefit of the doubt. There's just been so much else going on, not just at Everton, but just in the general football world with the Corona and with the Euros on, and the fallout of the Super League, and a lot of clubs around the world, a lot of clubs who you'd think we might be looking to try and get players off, more reluctant to sell than usual. I think the fact that we know that Brands was in Holland has kind of put everyone at ease a little bit. I'm sure this has never been the case, but when you don't hear anything from the director of football, it's very easy to assume that he's just sat in his office, looking at his computer screen, not doing anything. We know for the fact that that's not the case, that he has been out of the country, wheeling and dealing and trying to negotiate things. So I think people are willing to be a bit more patient for at least the next week or two. I think if we get over to America and we're well into the pre-season, and I don't know how long we're in America for. I know we're playing in that Florida Cup thing, aren't we? We're there like a week, 2 weeks.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. But I know we're playing Manchester United in pre-season when we get back. I think if we get to that Manchester United game, whenever it is, I think in early August, and we've got no new signings by then I think it is time to really worry. But I think at least for the next week and a bit, until we're at the end of July, I think, and everyone who played at the Euros is probably back from holiday, and I think everyone's willing to be a bit more patient, because it's very likely that a lot of these players who we're chasing are on holiday, and we've got to wait till they come back until we can officially start doing business with their agents and looking to bring them into the club.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's very easy to forget the Euros finished a matter of days ago. Everything that's been happening with the pandemic and the Super League, as you mentioned, I think you'll probably find that a lot of big deals are probably going to happen more towards the end of the window, maybe. So yeah, I wouldn't be too fussed that we haven't had anyone in. The manager's been in he's had the squad for like a week, cracking on for 2 weeks. So it's not a disaster at this point. Of course, we are expecting a lot of signings coming in after everything that happened last season. That's definitely a given. So just talking outgoings now. Jay Price has said in the comments, he says, and this was a story that was doing the round a few weeks ago. It might have been the last time we made a stream, and it was about Calvert-Lewin, how the club feel he might have reached his peak and they want to cash in on him. Personally, I can't see that happening. I feel like that you can't just take 20 plus goals out your side like that. I think that would be shocking. Just on I want to speak about Richarlison, because he's not really been out the headlines a lot recently, ever since Ancelotti left. A lot of talk that Ancelotti really rated him. He wanted to bring him to Real Madrid. That sort of went a bit quiet, and then I think Fabrizio Romano tweeted that there wasn't really any concrete interest or any bids, at least from Real Madrid, for Richarlison. Then there was a lot of talk that he's had a bit of running with the club about allowing him to go to the Olympics. So Callum, what do you think the situation with Richarlison is going to be? Do you feel like he's slowly starting to maybe reach the end of his tether with the club, or do you feel like maybe he is going to come back and he's going to be a great player for us, or do you feel like Everton might cash in should an offer come in?
I think what happens with Richarlison all depends on Everton, doesn't it, really? In the end, it's the Lukaku situation. Richarlison sat down and probably gone, right, I'll give you 1 more year, 2 more years, do something, and then I'll stay. Look, we had a chance to keep Lukaku, I do think. We simply didn't do enough. Lukaku was, well, I stayed for a year. I gave you the one last chance to keep me around, and you just underperformed. Don't get me wrong, I don't think Richarlison has as lofty expectations as Lukaku, because he's not half the player that Lukaku is, to be nice to him. But it's the thing, I think what we need is, I think Richarlison wants to see some form of progression, maybe. I think it's that idea of maybe if we finish 8th, but we're really close, not 10th, and we've lost half of the last games of the season. If we finished 8th, and let's say we've been competitive season, we've been in and around there, then maybe he'll think, right, this is worth it. Because in the end, who's the 80 million we want for him. No club's got that money. So I think it's Richarlison doesn't have a choice, to be honest with you. And I think with the Euro thing, I think it was blown out of proportion a little bit. I don't think Richarlison was going to war with the club about it I think it was just Richarlison being Richarlison and over-exaggerating things like he always does about everything. I think it's just this. He's passionate Brazilian, isn't he? If I was passionate about Team GB, I'd want to play for the Olympic side, and he is. He wants to, especially now, he probably does want to win that Olympic gold medal, especially after losing against Argentina in the final. So in the end, it doesn't bother me too much. The guy wants to play in the Olympics. Let him play in the Olympics. It's not like he's saying, Everton, I don't care about you anymore. He just wants to, because let's face it, a Brazilian's going to care more about his country than some club in Merseyside.
Yeah. So, Paul, do you think there's a danger that we could lose Richarlison this summer, or do you feel like maybe there's one more season out of him before some serious talks start to take place about his future?
I think if all the clubs weren't so affected by COVID, then I think there would be a very real chance that he could leave, because we've had him 3 seasons now, as in 3 seasons, and we've not moved at all. We were a mid-table club when we signed him, and we're not in Europe, and we're a mid-table club not in Europe now, really. Yeah. And he's been largely very, very good during the time he's been at the club. I know he's had some periods where he's been out of form, but it has gone up in you look at the 3 years he's been here. Overall, then he's definitely proved to be worth the money that we spent. But as Callum touched on then, what club is going to come in and spend the money on him in this environment? We bought him for 50 million. We're not selling him for 60, 70 million. No chance. We're not making a 15, 20% profit on a player who's come in and contributed so much to the team whilst he's been here. We're going to be looking at 80, 90, maybe even 100 million. And the clubs who you typically maybe would spend that on him, your Real Madrid, your Barcelona's, Inter Milan, they've got no money. They haven't. That's why they're all desperate for the Super League. Barcelona are nearly bankrupt. Real Madrid can't make a marquee signing this summer. Their marquee signing was taking the manager, Ancelotti. Ancelotti's probably the biggest income they're going to have this season. Inter Milan, likewise, they're so skint that Antonio Conte's left in a huff. What else is there? Man United, they've gone and got Jadon Sancho. Chelsea don't need them. They just won the Champions League. Man City don't need a wide player. They're looking at number 9. So all these typical clubs who you'd think maybe would come in and would take Richarlison off us, they're not going to be able to pay the money that we want. And even if he is sitting there telling Everton, right, I've had enough now, you haven't progressed, you haven't kept up your end of the bargain, I deserve to go play for a better club. You can just turn around and say to him, all right then, you and your agent, go find a club. You'd be in the same situation Moises Kean's in. All right then, go find a club to pay the money that we're asking for, and you can go. And you won't be able to find that club to pay the money. That's simple.
Yeah, it's such a key point to remember, isn't everything that's been happening? There's so many clubs that are strapped for cash at the minute, and you're probably not going to see like mega money been thrown about like we have in seasons gone by. So if players are going to leave, it's important to bear that in mind. So there might not be a lot of players leaving than you think. But if the players are going to leave, I think you are probably going to be looking at maybe your Jameses and your Moise Keans, but our sort of big players, if you like, who have been consistently performing, like your Richarlisons, DCLs, I think they probably will stay. But just on the deadwood, who are we wanting to see out? Because obviously this has been an issue which seems to just not have gone away for a lot of seasons now. But do you reckon we will see players like Andre Gomez, Alex Iwobi, Bernard, Sigurdsson, Delph? Do you think these players will leave the club? Or do you think that maybe a lot of people are getting too carried away with the ideas that they just will go and clubs will pay money for them? Do you think maybe we should get used to the idea that, all of these players, there's a good chance that they still might be here in August? What do you think, Callum?
I think we can get rid of every bit of deadwood we want to get rid of, to be completely honest with you.
Do you think clubs will pay money for them?
Yeah, like it might not be much money, but like you said, it's the wages we want to get rid of. It's like if we can get rid of Delph for 3 million, I don't care. We've got rid of Delph. Like, to put it simply, if we do another Schneiderlin situation where we just go, here, 2 million, don't care, take him, frees up wages. Getting rid of Schneiderlin helped us sign players like Alan, mainly just because of his wages, because of how stupid they were. We were paying 90 grand a week. Might have even been more, but if I had to give you a list, I've got the Everton first team squad up here. If I had to give you a list of players who I think I wouldn't mind seeing going, you've got John Joe Kenny, you've got Michael Kean, you've got Delph, Sigurdsson, don't know about Gomez. Yeah, his wages are too high. Gomez, Tossun, Iwobi, and Bernard, probably.
Bernard's linked with moves today, isn't he? I read it in the Echo before. That apparently there's 3 clubs that are interested in him, and he was practically out the door in January, wasn't he? Just
club
Saudi Arabia pulled the plug at the very last minute. And even before that, last summer he was linked with Roma. That deal was all done, but Ancelotti at the last minute said that he wanted him to stay. I think Bernard will go. There's other players who are going to find it hard as a shift. Players like a Wolby. As much as I'd like to see us part ways with a Wolby and maybe get a little bit of money back for him, I don't think it's going to happen because he's still at the age where, sadly, the club will still look at him and still think that he's an investment worth hanging on to. Or he's at least a player who, if we were going to part ways with, we should be looking to get money for. And it's not going to happen because we bought him for 28 million, rising to about 40. But essentially, we spent 28 million at least on him. We're not even going to get 10 million, I think, for him. And I think the club is not going to take a massive loss. If we're going to take any loss on him, it won't be like we're not selling him for less than half what we bought him for. Because he's at the age now where he could turn around and have an half-decent season, and then we could maybe look to sell him next season, and we'd get 10 million more for him than we would if we sold him this season. I mean, you don't know, do you? So players like Iwobi, I think the club are probably just going to cross the fingers and hope that if we hang on to him a bit longer, that he might kick on and then he might do something.
What about Gomez?
He's the tricky one, isn't he? How old's Gomez? Is Gomez 30 yet?
I think he's I want to say 28, 27 maybe.
He's late 20s, I think. Yeah, I mean, he's the one who you'd think maybe we could convince a club somewhere, whether it was someone, whether it was Valencia or another club in Spain or France or Germany. We might be able to convince a club to come in and take him off us, but it's how much money are we willing to lose on him, because we spent quite a bit of money on him to get him on his permanent. It was 20 plus, wasn't it? And if we sell him, considering how poor his form has been over the last year and a half, and the fact that a lot of clubs just don't have big money to spend on players, I think if we sold him, it would have to be at a massive loss, and it just depends on whether the club want to do that. I don't think he'd be willing to do it for a Iwobi personally. And players like Bernard, we didn't spend any money on, they'll just be happy to do a Velasquez with him, just get him out on loan, not going to be part of the manager plans, just any money we can get for him, we'll take that, because he's up there in age, Bernard, as well as me, he's about 29 and 30. So, but players like Gomez, who you think he's still got quite a few years left in him, so is he worth hanging on to, or do we just look to get rid of him any way we can? He's the strange one, Gomez. I'd like to see us part ways, but it wouldn't shock me at all if we don't.
Yeah, that's it. And, just before we wrap up the stream as well, be sure to drop a like if you can. It does help us out an awful lot. Harold Dotton, he's made a good point. He says we can't sell most of the players because nobody wants them. And Harold, that's the point that I worry about. I think of players that we want to shift. You mentioned John Joe Kenny there, Fabian Delph, players like that. If you are gonna, I think you've got to be looking at your Burnleys and maybe your Leeds United sort of sides for these sort of players to come in. All these sort of teams, I should say, to come in for these players. You're not going to, and like Callum said before, you probably are going to be looking, hopefully, at, what we did with Morgan Schneiderlin, and we just accepted the loss. We cut our losses, and we got him off the wage, but which could be happening. Of course, we've got players like Cenk Tosun still at the club. Let's not forget. It's mad, but Cenk Tosun is still an Everton player. He's still on the wage books, so it all remains to be seen what's going to happen there. But yeah, that's pretty much, I think we've covered all bases there. The only last one I want to touch on before we finish is Gbamin. Is our mind made up on this player, or do you feel like he deserves one last crack of the whip maybe to see if his leg doesn't break in half again? What do we think? Do we feel like Gbamin can be like a new sign?
Yeah, because he's not played, you know what I mean? It's like there's a player in there, and when you see him for Mines and you see him in training, you can just tell that there's something. I feel like I can see it anyway, and I can imagine you lot can see it too, that there is a player in there, and it's not his fault, is it? It's not like he's been crap. He's just got really bad. I don't even think he's injury prone. I just think
he wasn't injured at Mines.
That's what I mean. I think he's just injured one part of his body, and it's one of those things where it just keeps happening because it's that one part and it's weak. Because, he came back, and I think as soon as he came back from injury, I think let's face it, if you've just come back and you've not been rehabilitating for too long and you hadn't had any time off, and then you hadn't had any pre-season, you hadn't had any, I think it was destined for him to get injured again, really, wasn't it? But I do think we give him a chance, because I do think, even if we just say this season, Gbamin, you're going to be rotational. And then he's got to understand, listen, you've barely played any football. You might play if we need to rest Alan Doucouré, and then you'll step into one of them roles. But I do think he's a good player, and I think we need to give him at least a full season, hopefully, of football before we start saying that the book's closed on him.
I mean, let's not forget as well, he's never had a full pre-season with us, so hopefully this does in the world of good. And then when he does come into the squad, we can see him for the player that he has been, and why we spent the money on him a couple of years ago. He has been very unlucky, just there in the comments. Gbamin's been very unlucky. He's had 2 freak injuries. So it will be like a new signing, having him back in the side and see what he can offer. Callum just mentioned there, initially, if you bring him in as a rotation player initially, let's not forget, Ben Godfrey was probably brought in as a rotation player and turned out to be our player of the season, head and shoulders with everyone else. So we need to give him a chance, and we can't really turn our back on him now. I think we deserve one final crack at the whip. So yeah, I think we'll leave the stream there. We've been on for a good hour now. So I think we've covered all bases, as I said before. So big thanks to Callum Brannan and Paul for coming on. Thanks to everyone for getting involved with the comments. With hopefully get some new signings in soon, and we'll be able to make more live streams in the not too distant future. Hopefully talking about some new deals. But yeah, thanks for watching the Toffee Blues YouTube channel. Thanks to Callum and Paul for coming on. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you again next time.